Hello everybody, my name is Professor Rich, and today we're going to learn about language for making suggestions in English, and we're going to do that by using a real story, a story that really happened from my life. This happened about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. So we're going to learn English from a real story, and we're going to learn some useful phrases for making suggestions. And these phrases might be a little different to the phrases which you see in those boring English course books, because these are real British phrases to make suggestions in English. If you are joining us live, do smash that like button. And if you've just found this channel, it's a great time to hit subscribe. I'm going to show you a picture, and let's see if you guys can guess what you think this story is about. So what do you think this story is about? Look at the picture over there. What can you see in the picture? What do you think the story will be about? What can you see in the picture? What can you see in the foreground? And what can you see in the background? Who is in the picture and what are they doing? And why do you think they're doing this? Has anybody tried to do this? Have you ever done this activity? What is this activity? Someone in the chat can help me out. Mina says it's a beach party. A beach party. I'm not sure there's enough people there for it to be a beach party. It's a small beach party, I suppose. Maybe it's a bit smaller than a beach party. And what is the main activity? Julia says they're having a blast at the beach. Oh, Amina says it's like a barbecue night. That's right. This is a barbecue on the beach. Did you know that in England, in a lot of places, you can have a barbecue on the beach? You need to check with the local council. So the local council are like the local government, and they make the regulations and laws for things like a barbecue on the beach or a picnic in the park. And in many places in England, you can have a barbecue on the beach. It's okay. So this is a story about a barbecue on the beach. But you know, there's a problem. When we decided to have a barbecue on the beach, we had a problem. Our barbecue is not one of those small instant barbecues. It's not one of those small £2 barbecues that you can buy from the supermarket that's one use with some light coal. No, our barbecue is this big, heavy thing. Really big, really heavy. Because, you know, 5 guys in their late 30s, we like big, heavy metal. So we had this big, heavy thing. And at that time, we had no car. And the beach was 20 minutes away. So let's imagine that situation. We don't have a car, and the beach is 20 minutes away. How are we gonna get this big, heavy thing to the beach? How are we gonna get this big, heavy thing to the beach? Big, heavy barbecue. And you can see my friend Rob in the middle. He's an electrician. He's trying to work it out. You can see me on the right. I have glasses and hair, thanks to artificial intelligence. And you can see my friends Danny, Jules, and Trud around here. And they're trying to think about this serious problem of getting the big heavy barbecue to the beach. So Zoya says get a taxi, a big taxi. Well, Zoya, that is one of the possibilities. I'm going to show you 4 things that we said. We had a conversation about this. We talked about it, because when you have a problem, it's a good idea to talk about it, isn't it? So we talked about it, and let me tell you some of the things my friends said. They said, should we try taking it in turns to carry it? Between us, it should be okay. And they said, how about we just get a taxi? It won't cost much. And they said, do we really need the barbecue? We could just make a fire and take a grill. And they said, our best bet will be to stay at home. We can have a barbecue in the garden instead. So, these are the 4 suggestions that my friends made. You can see them on the screen. Should we try taking it in turns to carry it? Between us, it should be okay. Taking it in turns. What does that mean? How about we just get a taxi? It won't cost much. It won't cost much. Is there a problem with getting a taxi? What do you think? Do we really need the barbecue? We could just make a fire and take a grill. What's a grill? Can anyone in the chat tell us what a grill is? Our best bet will be to stay at home. We can have a barbecue in the garden instead. Have a barbecue in the garden. What do you think about that idea? Is that a better idea than going to the beach? So, taking it in turns to carry it. That means that each person carries it for a bit and then gives it to the next person. That's called taking it in turns, or take it in turns. And a grill, so the grill is a piece of metal with gaps in the metal, and you use this to cook food over a fire. So you put the metal with the gaps, with the holes in it, over the fire, and then you can cook the food on the metal. That's a grill. And one suggestion there says we could just make a fire and take a grill. Which of these suggestions do you think is the best one? Which one do you think that we did in reality? Plavi says, I don't really take part in these problems. My friends manage these things because they're good at it. Well, that's fantastic, Pallavi. Zoya quite likes number 2, to get the taxi. Do you know, Zoya, the problem is our barbecue is so big that a lot of taxis might not like it if we take our barbecue in the taxi. Mina says, I'll go with the first one. So that is actually what we did. That's really what we did. We decided that we would take it in turns to carry it. And that's what we did. We took it in turns to carry it. And it looked something like this. But there's another problem. There's another problem. It's a problem with the beach. What do you think is the problem with the beach? There's a problem with the beach. What do you think is the problem with the beach? You see, the beaches in England, most of the beaches in England, they have a problem. Well, Mina says the beach is crowded. Actually, that's not really the problem with beaches in England. It's quite rare that the beaches in England are that crowded. Pallavi says embarrassment. No, my friends don't get embarrassed. They're a special kind of people. The 4 men in the picture look skinny. Yeah, my friends are not that skinny, actually. And also, I'm not friends with Ben Stiller on the left. It looks like Ben Stiller. Windy beaches, says Sonia. Yeah, that's a possibility. So actually, the problem is it's a rocky beach. So where I lived at the time, it's a rocky beach. The beach is all rocky and there is nowhere to sit. What are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about that? So the beach is all rocky. There's nowhere to sit. What are we going to do about that? That's a problem. That is a problem. So what do you think? What are we going to do about that? Any ideas? And if you are enjoying the video so far and watching from home, it's a great time to smash that like button and hit subscribe. So Zoya thinks maybe we should just stand and dance. Well, that's a good suggestion, Zoya, but eventually you start to get tired. And also, when you're having a barbecue, actually what you want to do is to sit and eat rather than stand and dance. Now, that's an interesting idea, Julia. We can move some rocks to another place to gather and sit. And that is true. That is a possibility. Oh, wow, Pallavi, well done. That is one of my suggestions. We could just sit on the big rocks. Let's have a look at the real things that my friends said in this situation. So they said, well, we could grab a couple of blankets to take, and we could sit on them. And they said, how about we just try to find some big, smooth rocks to sit on? Some big, smooth rocks. And they said, maybe our best bet will be to just put up with it. We'll stay for a few hours and then go home. And they said, let's just take some deck chairs. They're light and comfy. Light and comfy. So here you can see the suggestions here. Which of these do you think is the best idea? Which do you think is the best idea? You can see some interesting vocabulary there. We've got big, smooth rocks, a couple of blankets, a couple of in this case means 2 or 3. And we have put up with it. Let's just put up with it. Just put up with it. Put up with it. And we have deck chairs. Deck chairs. Can I get an emoji to represent deck chairs? Yes, kind of. No, not really. No. No, not really. Is that it? Kind of. Kind of. If we put the beach in there as well. Kind of like a deck chair. How about we just find some big smooth rocks to sit on? So that was Pallavi's suggestion, actually. And Sonia, Zoya, and Mina all think that's a good idea. So actually, that's not what we did. It's not what we did. We decided to take a couple of blankets. We decided to take a couple of blankets. And actually, the beach does look something like this. Lots of rocks like that. So we took a couple of blankets and our barbecue looked something like that. Although we did not have an amplifier on the left. But it did look something like that. It was quite windy as well. And we put the blankets down over the rocks so we could sit down. And we were very happy with that. Now, there is more to this story, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. We're going to go back to the story. But first, let's have a think about the useful language. So, today, the class is about language to make suggestions. And we've seen some language to make suggestions already. I'm going to show you some of the phrases from our story so far, and I want you to type the missing words in the chat. So here are some phrases from the story so far, and I want you to type the missing words into the chat. And I can't get myself quite out of the way there. Something like that. Plavi says, how did you create that picture? I used artificial intelligence. ChatGPT, that one. So we've got 8 missing words. I'd like you to type the missing words in the chat. Excuse me. Normally I mute my microphone when I'm about to sneeze, but I couldn't find the mute button. I always sneeze, I normally sneeze about once per stream. Have you noticed that? About one time per stream, I have a sneeze. Smash the mute button just at the right time. I've almost finished my coffee already as well. That's not a good sign. I'm quite impressed that you're getting number 4 and number 7. Well done, Pallavi and Julia and Anawat. Well done, folks. Very good. And if you're just joining us, we're talking about language for suggestions. And I've just told a real story, part of a real story, about having a barbecue on the beach. We are going to continue that story. There's a bit more to it. And there's an interesting ending. I'll give you about another 30 seconds just to finish that off. And I will type the answers myself in the chat. You might notice the use of just quite a lot. Using just quite a lot there. And the answers are now in the chat. And thanks to the magic of the internet, they're now also on the screen. So we've got, should we try? How about? We could just. Our best bet. Well, we could grab. How about we just? Maybe our best bet will be, and let's just. And there's the answers again. And you can see those also with the useful language highlighted. These are all phrases to make suggestions. Should we try? How about we just? We could just. Our best bet will be to, well, we could. How about we just? Maybe our best bet will be to just and let's just. So, the verb form for most of these, you'll notice, is the same, although one of them is different, because I've got should we try, although actually we could get rid of try there from the phrase and just have should we, and then it's the same verb form in everything. That's quite useful, isn't it? Every single phrase uses the same verb form. So what is that verb form? What is that verb form? Is it the infinitive? Is it the ing? Or is it the past participle? Which of those verb forms is the correct one to use in all of those phrases? What's the correct form of the verb to use in all of those phrases? So that's right, Zoya. In all of those, we use the infinitive. So we're going to just delete that. We don't need them, because the only one we're going to use here is the infinitive. So it's quite easy, isn't it? Let's just go. Should we go? How about we just go? Could we just go? Our best bet will be to go. Our best bet will be to go. Should we study English? How about we just study English? We could just study English. Our best bet will be to study English. Let's study English. Let's have a look at the pronunciation. So, look at the phrases from before, and let's have a think about which words are stressed. Because that's a really good way of practicing pronunciation, is to look at which words are stressed. Which words are stressed? So let's look at the first one. Should we try taking it in turns to carry it? Should we try taking it in turns to carry it? Should we try taking it in turns to carry it? So it's should we try taking it in turns to carry it? Should we try taking it in turns to carry it? So we have the 4 syllables that are stressed. And if we clap it, we can say, should we try taking it in turns to carry it? Should we try taking it in turns to carry it? Should we try taking it in turns to carry it? Should we try taking it in turns to carry it? So notice that the modal verb is not stressed, and the pronoun is not stressed, and the prepositions are not stressed. In and to are not stressed. Should we try taking it in turns to carry it? Now let's have a look at the others. So I'd like you to type in the chat for each one, which are the stressed words. So for number 2, which words do you think are stressed in that? By the way, there is no perfect answer for this. The words that someone stresses can change. They can change depending on the person, depending on the context, depending on the emphasis, depending on the accent, depending on the situation. There's many reasons why we can change word stress or sentence stress. Well, what we're focusing on here, Pallavi, is not so much the syllable stress, but the word stress in the sentence. So we're thinking, which are the important words in a sentence so we can get the rhythm of the language? Should we try taking it in turns to carry it? Should we try taking it in turns to carry it? Should we try taking it in turns to carry it? So Zoya's gone for about get taxi. Let's have a look. How about we just get a taxi? How about we just get a taxi? How about we just get a taxi? So I would go for about just get taxi. How about we just get a taxi? How about we just get a taxi? And number 3 there, Zoya, what have we got? Make, take, grill. We could just make a fire and take a grill. Make a fire and take a grill. We could just make a fire and take a grill. General rule. Verbs, that is main verbs, nouns, not pronouns, but other nouns. So verbs, main verbs, nouns, not pronouns, and adverbs are stressed. That's the general rule. So adverbs, nouns, not pronouns, main verbs, and adjectives, actually, also. Auxiliary verbs and modal verbs are only stressed when they are negative. Only when they are negative. All right, Pallavi, let me read the sentences, see if it helps. Our best bet will be to stay at home. Well, we could grab a couple of blankets to take. How about we just try to find some big smooth rocks to sit on? Maybe our best bet will be to just put up with it. Let's just take some deck chairs. So our best bet will be to stay at home. Will be to stay at home. Will be to stay at home. I think you can argue about be, but I'm going to put it stay at home. Well, we could grab a couple of blankets to take. How about we just try to find some big, smooth rocks to sit on. Sit on. Sit on. Maybe our best bet will be to just put up. Put up. Ooh, put up. So it's interesting we put up. Put up. Put up with it. With it. Put up with it. Put up with it. With it. With it. Let's just, let me think about that. Let's just take some deck chairs. 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 Okay. Right, so there's my answers. Now, as I said, there's no perfect solution to this. There is the stress for the sentences can change depending on context, depending on person, depending on situation. This is just my answer. So let's move on, folks. Let's get back to our story. And now I'd like you to type suggestions in the chat using the useful language. Are you ready for our next problem? This really happened. Looks like there might be a bit of rain later. A bit of rain. What are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about that? Well, we could smash that like button and hit subscribe while we're here. But what are we going to do about that rain? So, suggestions in the chat. Try to use the phrases from before. Can you remember the phrases from before? If you use the phrases from before, you get bonus points. What do you think? What are we going to do about that rain? The rain could actually be quite a big problem, especially since we do have a guitar amplifier there on the left-hand side. And that probably won't go very well with the rain. So we definitely need to find some sort of solution. This guy in the dressing gown also has quite a big problem that he seems to have lost his trousers. Now, that obviously is quite a large problem. However, since it's going to rain anyway, maybe that's not the biggest problem in the world for him. Zoya says, should we just go for a swim? We'll get wet anyway. In this situation, Zoya, it's probably better to use will instead of weed. We'll get wet anyway. Should we just go for a swim? We'll get wet anyway. And Julia says, our best bet. I think you need to look at that phrase again, Julia. Let me give you a correction here. I'm going to type a correction for you for that one. Maybe our best bet will be to set up a tent. Maybe our best bet will be to set up a tent. So it's maybe our best bet will be to. Maybe our best bet will be to. Or our best bet will be. So with best bet, we often use the possessive pronoun and we say your best bet will be or our best bet. So it's our best bet or your best bet. Your best bet, our best bet. My microphone is clipping so much and I'm just going to change that a little bit because it's really starting to annoy me. Right, see how this one goes. It should be better now. What's that, Fabri? It's pouring out there. It's better not to tear our clothes. Yes, indeed. Can you use the language from before? So Pallavi says, how about packing all the things together and heading home or waiting in some nearby shelter? If we use the language, Pallavi, we'd say, how about we just pack all our things together? How about we just pack all our things up? How about we just pack it all up? How about we just pack it all up? That's using the useful phrase from before. How about we just back it all up? Mina says, how about we enjoy our barbecue nights with the rain? It just gives us another vibe. Yeah, indeed. Indeed. It does. And I think that's something like what we did. All right, folks. So I am now going to read some sentences. I'm going to tell you some of the things we really did. I'm going to tell you some of the things we discussed. Listen and type the words you hear. Listen and type the words you hear. All right? Here we go. Listen and type the words you hear. Number 1. How about we take an umbrella? How about we take an umbrella? So if you're watching this video later on YouTube, you should get a piece of paper and a pen and quickly write down the words that you hear. Number 1, how about we take an umbrella? Number 2, our best bet might be to get out of here. Our best bet might be to get out of here. Our best bet might be to get out of here. So type the words you hear, or if you're watching the video later, then take a piece of paper and a pen and quickly write down the words that you hear. Number 3, maybe we should just put up with it. It's just a bit of rain. Maybe we should just put up with it. It's just a bit of rain. And last time, maybe we should just put up with it. It's just a bit of rain. Wow, well done, Julia. And Zoya. And Pallavi, very close. You guys are getting too good. I need to make the lessons more difficult. Number 4. We could just get under some trees and wait for the rain to pass. We could just get under some trees and wait for the rain to pass. We We could just get under some trees and wait for the rain to pass. All right, so I'm going to show you on the screen the answers to those in just one moment. What you need to do when you look at those answers is you should compare the words that you've written to the answers. And this helps to check your understanding of the language. It helps to check, more than anything, it helps to check your active vocabulary. So it's not so much your receptive vocabulary that we're interested in here. We're actually checking your active vocabulary because you heard and understood the phrase, but then you misrepresent some of the words. And that is an indication of your productive vocabulary. So let's have a look. There you can see the original words. You should check those and compare them to what you've written. I will say them again to give you some idea of the pronunciation. So here we go. I'll say them again. How about we take an umbrella? Our best bet might be to get out of here. Maybe we should just put up with it. Just a bit of rain. We could just get under some trees and wait for the rain to pass. All right. So let's move on to our next problem. Our next problem is the seagulls. Do you know what the seagulls are? The seagulls are giant birds. Birds the size of a man or two men. Huge English seagulls. And they love to take food from barbecues. Dangerous giant birds. What are we going to do about that? So, what will we do if the seagulls come and steal our food? What will we do if the seagulls come and steal our food? Hello there, Sleepwalker. What will we do if the seagulls come and steal our food? It's a problem. And actually, the seagulls here in England are really brave. They will go for your food. Oh, yes, they will go for it. So what will we do? Could you use the language from the class to make suggestions? Well, that's well noticed, Pallavi, and that's because for most of the time during the stream, I'm teaching and presenting. And when people teach and present, they normally speak a bit slower. However, when I'm speaking with my friends and making suggestions, then we speak a lot faster. And so that's what I want to show you when I'm saying those phrases. I want to show you how people speak naturally and how people say those phrases in a natural, real way, using real English. That's what this channel is all about. And if you're interested in learning natural, real English, then you should smash that like button and hit subscribe, because that is all we do here. Zoya says, our best bet will be to wave our hands and try to scare them away. Fantastic. Well done, Zoya. Perfectly using the phrases from today. Our best bet will be to wave our hands and try to scare them away. That is absolutely fantastic. Well done. That is perfect. Now, Julia, you've used would instead of could, and that's a common mistake. So if we correct this, then we're going to say, maybe we could just put the food inside the box. Maybe we could just put the food inside the box. Excellent. And Anawat says, how about we light a firecracker? Well, that'll probably work for about 2 minutes, Anawat. And I'm not even sure if it'll work for that long, because I tell you, the seagulls in England, they'll probably eat the firecracker. They'll probably eat the firecracker, I tell you. You should see the size of the seagulls around here. Oh yes, seagulls really do try to steal the food. Actually, Pallavi, they really, really do try to steal the food. The seagulls here are not messing around. They will take a sandwich from your hand. You have to be careful. You have to watch it. If you're walking around with fish and chips on the beach in England, you best be careful. Your best bet will be to be very, very careful. Yeah, you got to be real careful. Got to be real careful. Let me show you a very real picture. Yeah, there you go. You watch out for those seagulls because they are seriously dangerous. This is a photograph from our beach barbecue. Let's move on now to let's move on to our next problem. So the next problem was, we thought, well, it's going to get cold at night. What are we going to do about that? That's pretty serious. We were worried about that as well because, you know, we wanted to stay there for quite a while, eat some meat, drink some beer. I don't drink alcohol anymore, but back then I did. So we know that, you know, the English summer can be quite nice in the daytime. It can get quite warm, nice warm weather, nice warm beach. But, you know, the evening is still very cold. No, Pallavi, the seagulls are not that big. It's a joke. But they will take your food. Seagulls actually are about this big. About this big. And they're not dangerous. They won't attack, but they will take your food. That's nice, Sleepwalker, but we need to use the language from the class. So instead of weaken, because weaken is not really a good way to make a suggestion in English. So could someone help with a phrase from in the class? Zoya says, how about we just make a fire? Which is the same suggestion. Oh, that's good. Yeah, we could just make a fire. Why don't they? No, this should be suggestions for us. We didn't have we should actually, but we should is good. Yeah, we should just start a fire. Maybe we should just put up with it, and let's call it a day. Now those suggestions are contradictory, Anawat, because just putting up with it and calling it a day are different things. But okay, maybe we should just put up with it. That's true. We're hard men. We don't need to worry about the cold, and let's call it a day. Means let's go home. That's right. So what we actually did is what Anawat just suggested. We put up with it. We put up with it. We put up with it, and then we got to our final issue, which was time to go home. We need to carry this thing home. So for those people who were here at the start of class, you know that we carried the barbecue from my home to the beach. That was a 20-minute walk, but now the barbecue is boiling hot, scorching hot. If we touch it with our hands, then we'll burn our hands off. That doesn't sound like a good idea. So, we have a problem. We have a big problem. What are we going to do about that? What is the solution for this problem? What do you guys think? How are we going to get this thing home? How are we going to get this thing home? Notice how I'm asking for suggestions here. I'm using gonna. How are we going to do that? How are we going to get it home? How are we going to solve this problem? No, we need to go home, Pallavi. We can't stay there for 24 hours. It's the beach. That's a good suggestion from Sleepwalker. It says, how about we fill it with cold water? Now, where could we get some cold water, Sleepwalker? Where could we get some cold water on the beach? I wonder where we could get some cold water. Shall we just wait for it to cool down or pour some water on it? Very good. Julia says, our best bet was to pour it down with ocean water. So, interesting suggestions. Now, we did something like that. It was a little bit different, actually. It was a little bit different. What we did is we kicked the barbecue into the sea, and then we had to get the barbecue out of the freezing cold water. So we kicked the barbecue into the sea, and then we had to get the barbecue out of the freezing cold water. And my friend Rob, the electrician, did that. Now, this is not exactly how it happened, but it's something like that. Was a little bit different. Rob is not bald, and he didn't try to cook some sausages when he did it, but I do remember him running into the freezing cold water in the evening in order to rescue the steaming barbecue. And we have a video, a real video of that happening, and maybe I'll show that to you one day. But I think today is not the day. So yes, this really happened. This really happened. The barbecue didn't quite look like that, to be honest, but it was quite an entertaining moment because the water was really cold. You have to think the water was freezing cold at that point, like really cold. You don't want to be in that water at that time. And then we carried the barbecue home, and it was a wonderful, wonderful day. I highly recommend beach barbecues. I'm a big fan of them. So, folks, we are now coming to question time. And you can, of course, download the notes from today. If you've joined us late, you might want to wait until after the stream and then watch it. This was a dialogic story. So we told a story to learn some English. I do like this kind of class. And I do this kind of class sometimes with my real life students. A dialogic story class. Stories are just a great way of learning anything because we have an interest in stories, don't we? We have an interest in stories. It's like as humans, we have a natural tendency to be interested in stories and we want to know what happens next. All right, folks, so do you have any questions about English, about learning, or about anything in general? And I will stick around for as long as you have interesting questions to ask. We should have a stream on Saturday, but I'm still working that out. There's a few things going on, as you might be aware. It is Easter. We're celebrating Easter here in England. So Anawat says, can I use object pronouns in front of ing forms like him eating all the cookies made me angry? Yes, you can. You can exactly do that. Anawat, so that is called nominalization. And I did a live stream on that. I'm sure you can find it. If you do a search for Prof. Rich nominalization, then you should find it. So just do a search for Prof. Rich nominalization or making nouns from verbs. Yes, I found it. Nominal clauses, that's what I called it. That one. So if you do a search for it, nominal clauses, you should be able to find it. But yes, absolutely you can. Takeshi says crazed versus crazy. I would say that crazed is someone who has been made to act crazy or who has become crazed from something. Like after spending all day in the sun, he was a crazed lunatic. So it's something like when we crazed, it's like something temporal, something not a permanent state, but some temporary state that's happened because of something. Whereas crazy is, as you know, crazy. That's what I would say is the difference there, Takeshi. However, there's an overlap. Pallavi says, who is your favourite poet? I don't know. I'm not really a massive poetry fan. I enjoy poetry a little bit out of interest. But I'm not a massive poetry fan. I've spoke before about my favourite poems. I like Ozymandias and I like Vultures. And Rudyard Kipling. I quite like Rudyard Kipling. I don't know if he's my favourite, but I like him. He eating all the cookies made me angry. It doesn't quite sound right, that. Yeah, you can't really say that. I know what. That doesn't sound right. You can say him eating all the cookies made me angry. Or you can say his eating of all the cookies made me angry. But he eating actually doesn't work. That's wrong. Yeah, it's wrong. Because when you do that, you're setting up a clause. Right? Because this he, we can't use that as an adjective. Not unless it's he-man. But we can't use he as an adjective. He's like a noun. So it doesn't really work. So we're not going to nominalize like that. If you want to use he for nominalization, then you probably need something like a that clause. Like that he ate all the cookies made me angry. Like that. Using a that clause, that he ate all the cookies. So that's an option for nominalization. And again, that's something that I talked about in the stream. So if you do a search for nominal clauses, Prof. Rich. It also helps, by the way, let me tell everyone, if you do a YouTube search and you see a Prof. Rich thing come up and you click it and watch it and it's useful, then it tells YouTube that, hey, when people search for this term, it's useful. So then it might serve it out to people who are not subscribers who search for the term. That's how YouTube learns its search. In a figurative sense, can I use imbue, immerse, and inundate interchangeably? I wouldn't say they're interchangeable exactly. In a figurative sense. No, they're not interchangeable. Immerse, imbue, imbued, imbued. I would say that inundate is more than imbue. Like inundate is like totally flooded. So I would say that imbue is a bit less. Imbue is a lot, but inundate is just like everywhere. And then as for immerse, immersed. Like his works are immersed with a sense of calm. Immersed. Imbue, inundate. I'm inundated with work. I'm immersed in work. I don't think we use immerse in the same way. Imbue, inundate, immerse. Immerse. Maybe immerse is even less. Immerse. Immerse. Immerse yourself in the calm. I'm immersed in my work. Yeah, it is. It's definitely different. It's definitely different because immerse is kind of like being dipped into something, right? So it's like you are dipped into the water and you're surrounded in it. But when we have imbued and inundated, well, imbued is kind of like it's occupying, like it's soaked into your being and your clothes. It's soaked in, you know? Whereas with immersed, it's not soaked in. It's not part of you. Yeah, that's it. Like with imbue, we have this sense that it's part of the thing. But immerse, it's not yet part of the thing. If you immerse something in something else, it might become imbued, but it's not the same as being imbued, right? So immerse just means the thing has gone into something else completely, and imbued means it has that thing in it now, right? And inundated means it's everywhere. It's completely like flooding out. So there are differences there, Anawat. I wouldn't say that they are interchangeable at all. When you're talking figuratively, there might be some sense where there's a crossover, but I think the best way of learning the differences here would be to look at collocations and how they're used. So when do people use imbued, inundate, and immerse, right? Like, his music is imbued with a sense of calm. I am inundated with work. I can't cope. And I need to immerse myself in... I need to immerse myself in nature in order to get creative. Something like that. So you start to think about the different uses, and that starts to give you an idea of how the different ones are used. Zoya says, what do you do if a student is lazy and unmotivated? It's not easy, Zoya. There's no easy solution to that. It can be really tough. Also, once a student has become habitually like that in your classes, then sometimes there's very little you as an individual teacher can do to change that. It's often a very uphill battle. So I actually think a lot of the time, prevention is better than cure. In other words, just make your lessons as engaging and interesting as possible from the start, and just avoid ever getting to that point where they're boring and the student is lazy and unmotivated. On the other hand, maybe it's this idea of what's more important, a good teacher or a good student. It's an age-old question. Would it be better to have a bad teacher with a good student or a good student with a bad teacher? Most people agree that a good student is irreplaceable. So a good student will still learn with a bad teacher, but a bad student, that's tough for anyone. Doesn't matter how good you are as a student. If you have, as a teacher, if you have a student who really doesn't want to learn, what can you do? Obviously, variety. Variety is good. Challenge is important. You need challenge. So variety, challenge, comfort, but not too much comfort. Engagement and interest. You always want to appeal to people's interests. And a little bit of social motivation. Bit controversial, but social motivation's good, especially for teenagers. So teenagers, they want to impress each other. So teenagers are good in groups. And if you can get them fighting to have the best English or to be the best in the class, then you can provide a lot of social motivation. Teenagers can become motivated by their competition, and adults, but teenagers really a lot, especially if there is sexual competition going on as well. If they start competing for the boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, and all that stuff's involved, it's part of it. And I've seen it, especially at summer school. Especially at summer school, can be a big motivator for people to improve their English. Like the Japanese guys want to talk to the Italian girls, so they need to get their English better. They might not get anywhere, but at least they have that motivation. So yeah, social motivation's a big deal. I mean, it's one of the underlying things of communicative language classes, that it's all about that social motivation, not necessarily about dating. That's the teenage thing, but just that people want to talk to each other and get to know each other. And so there's some social motivation to understand and be understood. But it is an age-old problem. One thing for sure is that discipline is the last resort. Discipline is the last resort. Notice that I'm not saying discipline is not needed or doesn't have a place, but it's the last resort. So it should not be the first thing. Oh, a student doesn't like the class, they're not paying attention. Sit up and pay attention, or else XYZ, right? It's an option, but you don't want to go there. Because when you start to use that, you're backing yourself up against the wall. There's only one way you can go now. Once you go down that direction, you just go more and more down that same direction. It's more discipline, more discipline, more discipline. And the ultimate end of that is out they go. And that's it. You failed then, because you've lost them. You kick them out your class, kick them out the school, and they're gone. And really, that's a failure. So discipline has to be the last resort. Engagement and understanding is where you want to go. If you can get students liking you, especially teenagers, it's massive. Like, teenagers can be so motivated if they like you. If they like you. But it's a dangerous path to tread, because if you start doing things to keep them liking you, that can be a problem. And I've been caught out by that in the past, where I keep letting them play more games, and eventually they think they can just do whatever they want because you're like their friend, and that's not good either. And I know teachers who have very, very kind of strict rules with teenage classes, and it works very well. And so I'm not certain that my way is the best way here, but I have also had experiences where I've had very productive, intelligent teenage classes, and we get on, and so it works really well. But anyway, teaching is a complicated thing. There's never one answer. You have to try different things. It's humans. Humans are complicated. This is a silly question, but did you like to do homework when you were young? Some homework, not all. I used to like creative homework, projects. I used to like maths homework. I used to really enjoy essays at university, but some homework I really didn't like. I didn't like homework when we had to just copy stuff. I found that really boring. Any homework that was boring, I didn't like. I wanted challenging homework, not boring homework. A favourite news reporter or journalist? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, Pallavi. I will tell you my favourite journalists. Yeah, let's go for it. So, definitely one of my favourite journalists ever is Mr. Glenn Greenwald. One of the few worthwhile journalists in the world, in my opinion. Yeah, he's great. Glenn Greenwald. Highly recommend him and all of his stuff. He was the guy who broke the Edward Snowden story. He was Edward Snowden's contact when he leaked the PRISM information about the CIA spying on European citizens and on American citizens. That was Glenn Greenwald and Edward Snowden who leaked that. I quite like Matt Taibbi. And there's some other people I can't remember. So I guess that's enough for me to say. Glenn Greenwald, he's the man. Oh, I know. Louis Theroux. Louis Theroux, yeah. He's great. Yeah, this guy. Louis Theroux. Sleepwalker says, rich is the expression per se common to use. Yes, it is. Yes, per se. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Although people use it in all kinds of weird ways as well. Like, I think people use it a lot like just actually. It's not the only thing you can do per se. Yeah, but people do use per se quite a lot. Do you know any good online English tests to take and check skills? The problem is that for oral communication, you can really only do a human test. So you really need a human to test your speaking. But if you're looking for reading, writing, listening tests, then just get some IELTS material. Just find, you can actually get, if you go to like the official IELTS website, you can get IELTS past papers, official IELTS past papers. So I think it's IELTS.org, and you can just get like sample test questions there. And if you do those, do the reading, listening, then they'll give you a very good idea of your reading and listening. As for speaking and writing, you might be able to find an online thing that can help with that. ChatGPT will probably give you a pretty good idea for writing. So if you just put some of your writing into ChatGPT and say, what band in IELTS would this get? It'll give you a kind of approximate answer. And as for speaking, you need a human, really. There's no automatic thing that can do speaking. And forget about those apps and stuff. It's not good enough. And even humans are not very good. I mean, I have people come into me and they're like, oh, I did this test with this guy and he said I've got C2. And it's like, well, I don't care what some guy said. That's not C2. All right? I almost know no one with C2. Almost no one I know has C2. I know people who've lived in England for like 25 years and they don't have C2 level English. C2 is a very synthetic level. You need to have a dedication to learning vocabulary, which is beyond that of many native speakers. How often do you use the expressions taught on the internet? Like, this cake is the bee's knees or dog's bollocks. Just curious how practical they are. The problem with those, Takeshi, is they become dated. They go in and out of fashion. So, for example, the idea of the dog's bollocks, like that was kind of a 1990s thing. And these days, nobody really says that. You know, it's not really trendy to say that anymore. And also the different age groups have different things to say. Bee's knees sounds like grandma, you know? Like, I don't think anyone uses the bee's knees apart from English with Lucy. All respect to Lucy. But yeah, I don't think people really use the bee's knees that much. And if they do, they're probably like 60 years old. So what you just have to pay attention to what people are using, what is currently in the modern day lexicon. And if you watch my recent video, you'll know what lexicon means. Lexicon. They go in and out of fashion. Yeah. Can I think of any that people would use for that, for specifically that idiom you spoke about? Do people say it's sick? They say like, oh, that's sick. Sick. I've heard a lot of kids saying sick recently. Like, that's come back because that used to be good. That used to be popular years and years ago. And I've heard teenagers saying it now. Like, sick. It means it's good. Right? Sick. Oh, sick. So that's young people say that. I mean, you can't go wrong with stuff like absolutely fantastic and just brilliant. You know, these are timeless expressions. Mina says, can you type his name in the chat? Sure. So, Glenn Greenwald. And who was the other fella? Louis Theroux. Anawat says, does the UK have hush money? How's it work? I think people in my country can keep a secret even though they get paid a fortune to keep it. You mean can keep or can't keep? I think the UK does have hush money, but it's often associated with the United States. And one of the reasons I think that hush money is associated with the United States is due to their punitive legal system when it comes to civil cases. In other words, in the United States, I believe if someone damages you, then you can be awarded not only the damage, but also a punitive award. In other words, the judge can decide to punish that person by fining them. And this is how people end up with millions and millions of dollars because a McDonald's coffee was too hot, for example, because of the punitive award. And I think because of the risk of that punitive award, then people are oftentimes prepared to pay hush money so that something does not go to court. That's my understanding, but I'm no expert. And Alexander says that Louis Theroux doesn't have a channel. I don't know if I don't know what Louis Theroux has. I don't think he has a channel. He's a BBC journalist, but you should be able to find like interviews of him and stuff. I highly recommend Joe Rogan podcast. So check out the Joe Rogan interview with Louis Theroux. And also if you type Louis Theroux Weird Weekends, then you will see some fantastic stuff with Louis Theroux. Louis Theroux Weird Weekends. He did a great BBC series. Very entertaining. Check it out. Alexander says, why does a boxing commentator say he's never been down, but was not down? He's never been down, but was not down. What do you mean, Alexander? That sounds fine to me. He's never been down. I mean, he's never been down. Well, that means he has never... he's never been knocked, or we could even say no one has ever knocked him to the mat. Right? So that's fine, isn't it? If he wasn't down and he said he's never been down, that actually sounds correct to me. So I don't quite understand the issue there. I'm getting kind of hungry, folks. I might have to go in a minute and eat something. Yeah, guess that's it. Well, everybody, thank you very much for watching. Make sure that you smash that like button and hit subscribe if you have enjoyed the stream today. We will probably be back on Saturday, although due to events in my life plus technical possible problems, I'm not so sure. So do check the schedule, but otherwise I will see you at 1 p.m. UK time on Saturday. That is now British summertime. That's the time that we are now on. Have a lovely, lovely week and a lovely rest of your Easter holiday, folks. My name has been Professor Rich, and I'll see you next time.